on the term of Lite-Skip tracing. When it was first brought out, there are two things in my life that have been constant for 41 years. One is my marriage. There's my beautiful spouse page, and the other is skip tracing. Neither one of those ever changed. They were constant. They were my rocks. And then all of a sudden, these new terms started coming out, like light skip tracing, pre-skip, and so forth. And I literally almost got into a fist fight with someone that pretty much everybody in the room will know, and that is Scott Jackson. And he started bringing up the term light skip tracing. And I have to admit, it was all ego. I just didn't understand the concept. And we all have those aha moments. And I know some of you are thinking, what does Tony Stark from Iron Man have to do with skip tracing? Well, in this particular subject matter, quite a bit, because it was actually this particular scene in Iron Man 2 where I mentally connected the dots between light skip tracing and what I've always done. We don't really have the time, energy, or can go to the expense of spending 8 hours on one file, which is what I've done my whole career. In this particular scene, Tony Stark's dad had left him the blueprint to the Stark Expo. And hey, Tony, someone has their mic on.
Yeah. Hey, Alex, real quick.
Oh, wow.
Can you share your
What can I
screen?
do for you?
Here, let me see if I can mute that. Okay. Are you sharing your screen?
I sure am.
Okay, because I'm seeing it. Nicole, you're seeing Alex's screen. So guys, it might be if you put your cursor at the very top of the screen, you might see two tabs, one that says meeting and one says Alex Price's screen. But let me check. Apologies, guys. Let me see if it's
While you're
something.
working on the back end to help a couple people, I'll continue so we don't go too far over our time frame. Again, this was a scene where in the movie, Tony Stark's dad had left him the blueprints for the Stark Expo, which was basically Disneyland for tech heads. And in the movie, he took it back to his office, if you will, his lair, whatever you call it, and he digitized it and spun it up in the air. And he said, okay, let's get rid of all these bushes. And just with flicking his fingers, he's like, let's get rid of all the bushes, the trees, etc. And then he said, okay, we don't need these restaurants, bathrooms, and food courts and kiosks. And he flips those off the screen. And when he got to the end of the day, he had gotten all the way down to the metadata. And he, if anybody has seen the movie, he actually invented a new molecule that saved his life. And that was my aha moment of my evolution of skip tracing, how I do it, how I teach it has changed. And the three types of skips actually have changed with it since COVID. So we're going to talk about that today in our light skip. Knowing what type of skip you're dealing with directly impacts which way you take your initial efforts before you hit the field, so you increase your first night's success rate. And this is our current 2026 definitions of the three types of skips. And these are my personal definitions. You can change the wordage if you verbiage if you want. But the first are just people that are displaced. That's 30% plus of all skips that when I do consulting for different companies, I see. I think the word skip is overused in today's environment. Someone that's displaced, they have moved because they hit a speed bump in life, and we all hit them and they're never positive. They're the loss of a relationship, a job, an arrest, etc. And how we react to those with the fight or flight psychologically is direct to how difficult someone is to find, because they make a couple bad decisions, then they compound it with more bad decisions. So 30% plus of all the accounts I see, they're not really skips. They just moved for a specific reason. They've used all the resources they have, meaning money, for that move, and they are pretty easily located. A light skip will actually, if done properly, probably locate 30% plus of your accounts that you're currently looking for. The next I call a recluse, and I would fall into this category. I never leave my house. It is not often that you will see me leave the house. I go to two places. I go to the cigar store, and I go down to another particular place that I frequent. Other than that, the only time I leave the house is if the wife makes me. So if I don't answer the door, I can hide in plain sight. That's another 25%. 25% of all of your assignments are usually repossessed at the given address. You just aren't at the right place at the right time. And the rest of it would be the purposeful skips. They're the credit criminals. They're the repeat offenders. They make up about 40%. You've had the assignment before, etc. In 2026, I can tell you that we are currently dealing with the smartest consumers I've seen in my career. We live in the information age, and better than that, we can have it now. Well, our skips are the same way. There are classes that are taught all over the United States or world for that matter, online and in person, on how to commit fraud, how to make fake driver's licenses, etc. I attend as many of those as I can, online and in person, at the Black Hat Conference, etc. Because how can I teach it if I don't know what to look for? So we have Google, they have Google. Keep that in mind. The first thing that I do if I can get my hands on it, is I want to look at the application, because the application is when things were good in this individual's life. And I know we live in a volume society where everything's coming in big drops with NBSI or RDN, etc. But your local customers, etc., see if you can get your hands on the application. I was challenged at NARS a few years back by Monty Klein that clients won't give the application. So I picked up the phone and called the 5 major lenders, and only one of them told me they wouldn't give a recovery agent the application out of the 5 major lenders. But when you're looking at this application, this is when things were good in this person's life. They were in a relationship, they had a job, they were trustworthy, they were credit worthy. So I want to see what changed from then to right now in that individual's life, because it's the change that is the why of this equation, and the why leads us to the where. The only reason why you have skip accounts in your queues right now is because you had not come across the right person to talk to. I can make skip tracing as difficult or as James Bondish as I want it to sound, but at the end of the day, all we're doing is talking to as many people as we can until we come across the 1, 2, or 3 people that have information we don't, and we can string that together in a breadcrumb trail to lead us from point A to point B. Next, I want to review all the notes, and this is critical. Every skip tracer thinks the person behind them didn't know what they were doing, and they're the only ones that know what they're doing. And they don't read the notes. I can't tell you how many skips over my career I have found just by reading the notes, because going back 90 days ago, when someone called the phone when it was working, they were told the individual moved to Utah. And now 90 days, 120 days later, we're looking for him in Sandy Springs, Georgia. If you read the file, the answers sometimes are right in front of your face. So I take that, and the first thing in a Lite-Skip I do is I'm going to check LPR. Why do anything if you've got hits that you can check first? So whether it's DRN or whoever, I'm pretty agnostic when it comes to the different companies out there. I just look at the data sets. And there's a class I did on how you can increase your LPR hits by at least 20 to 25%. It's the first class we did for ARA. If you go to their website, there's a recording of it. I challenge you to watch that class and it not change how you utilize LPR. The second thing I do is I take the given address and the previous address, and I go down to Street View. The first address, which is maybe the credit app address, or again, the previous address, is this beautiful little early 1900s Victorian cottage on Dexter Avenue here in Mobile, Alabama. I know a lot about this house because my wife and I almost bought it because we're looking to downsize. And if you look at the given address, which is the assignment address, it's an apartment complex. Skips always go down the economic and social world because they're making bad decisions. Now, the next address we find them at, or the final address where we secure the car, will probably be one step below this address that you see. So what's important about these addresses is the time in between them. That is when the why happened. And that is what you need to do a quick dig on to find out. Was there a divorce? Was there a lawsuit? Was there a loss of employment, etc.? Because those are the people that we need to talk to find out the why. We're just not asking the right questions of people. And when we knock on a door, or we call a mom and they tell us they haven't spoken to their son in 60 days or what have you, our initial gut reaction is to think liar, liar, pants on fire, which in reality, they are more often telling the truth, because whatever the why is, the speed bump has burnt a bridge between the subject and the individual you're talking to. And all you're doing is asking, well, where they currently live, and they probably really don't know because they're doing their best to stay away from that individual because of their current circumstances that burnt the bridge. Your subject has a new core group of people that they've surrounded themselves with. They're not hanging out with the same group they always have because of bad decisions. So I'm going to take those two addresses and I'm going to utilize, and I haven't said anything about searches or internet up until this point. I'm going to utilize the most, or use the most underutilized tool in skip tracing today, and that's the property record. I want to see who owns it. I can instantly tell if it's a rental property because you'll have the site address is in small town Iowa, but the physical address of the owner is in California. That immediately tells you it's rental or it's Airbnb. I want to see if maybe both properties were owned by the same person. Maybe there's a pattern. Maybe he was renting from a relative or a friend that has a couple rental properties. Usually the landlord instantly knows what the why is because the first person your subject ever defaulted on was the landlord. And they like to talk because they were left owing money and maybe damage to the property. Next, when I go to databases, I don't put socials in. I don't search by name and address. I don't look at the addresses with the dates. The dates, folks, they used to mean something. Now they don't. Everybody has their own algorithms in the background, and there's about 250 data points that make up those dates next to an address. They used to mean this is the first time the address reported and this is the last time. And you might see May of 2026 next to an address and you run out and find out it's a 2-year-old address. Why? Because the lender, by federal regulations, has to report to the credit bureaus the status of the loans they have on file every 30 days. If they have a 2-year-old bad address, what are they reporting this at the end of this month? The 2-year-old address. So I'd never look at those dates. What I do is I pull the address up because I want to see everyone that's associated with the address. That's where I find boyfriends, girlfriends, roommates, exes, spouses. I know statistically we all date or marry someone within a 3 to 5 year age range of ourselves. So Alex Price is 64. Paige Price is 60. If I see Paige Regan at the same two addresses as Alex, I can make a very good educated guess that that's a girlfriend or a spouse just based on male, female, and the age. Our roommates that we have are usually in that same age bracket. Our friends are usually our same age because the old saying, birds of a feather flock together, is correct. Now, I have friends that are older than I am. One of my closest friends is Ron Brown. He's a lot older than I am. But I have a lot of the young guns in the industry now that I have made very deep relationships with that are a good 20 years or more my junior. So there is a little bit, but the core group of people we surround ourselves with, those 4 or 5 people, they're going to be around our same age because they have the same interests, the likes, etc. that we do. And the number one thing that all humans seek is comfort. And having friends that like the same movies, the same stuff that we do, helps build on that comfort. So a Lite-Skip. I never, ever, ever, ever do commercials. But I am going to show you something. I spent over a decade traveling over 250 days a year to every client in the United States, to every large skip house, to the forwarders, to agents teaching skip tracing, data waterfalls, etc. And I saw the same problem everywhere I went. And that problem was the person sat down when an account hit their queue. They did 8 or 9 searches, copy and pasted each one of them individually, and then copy and pasted once they sorted it in some kind of outline they wanted, some sort of workflow. Then copy and pasted all of that into RDN or MBSI. And then when the account went to the next person, that person repeated those same steps. So by the time it reaches the agent, those steps have been done 5 times, and then the agent doesn't trust the work that anybody else has done, so they do it again. And you're wasting about 8 minutes per assignment doing that, and data should work for you. So I had an idea to come up with something that did a Lite-Skip instantly. And it is a one-of-a-kind tool, and people that are using it are seeing about a 20 to 25% increase in first night recoveries. And the one thing, your skip doesn't have paranormal powers. They're not leprechauns or unicorns. They're doing the same thing they've always done and around the same people. If they used to work out a lot at a particular gym, they're still working out. They haven't given that up. They're just at a new gym with new people. If they got a coffee every morning, they're still getting that coffee. They're just getting it from a new location. The reason why some of your LPR scams don't make sense is you're not taking the time to apply human behavior to them. And that's why that first class we did is so important to watch. The U.S. Census Bureau states that the average person moves 11.7 times in their lifetime. Well, the people we deal with are anything but average. They might move 11.7 times a year. So we have to try to get ahead of them. So when we apply data and human behavior together, we can form very good habits of an individual and sometimes know where they're going to be Tuesday at 7, because that's where they always are, at Tuesday at 7. And when that happens, it's a beautiful thing. We always start with why. The why leads us to the where. So this is what I call a validation report. It allows you to search by the VIN, the plate, or an address to pull any vehicles registered to an address. You're not having to use PII data like a name and an address or a social security number, etc. It is going to pop back instantly to you all the info on the vehicle, the plate, the state it's registered, the last time it was registered, the registration address, and the lien holder. And this is not a static file. This is an API to the lien holder direct. So this is basically as real time as you can get. When DMV updates set it up and we have it. So then we take that registered owner, the registration address, we backdoor 3 bureaus. One of the bureaus is called a thin file, and that's data that comes from payday loans, pawn shops, check cashing stores, etc. The subprime market that doesn't have an they don't report to the bureaus, but they have an application process. That's why there's that lift in information. We take the registered owner and the registration address, we hit 3 bureaus, and we come back with the most current credit header address, phones, and emails for that individual. So now you have the 2 most accurate locations of where vehicles are secured from, the registration address and the most current address reported, and we give it to you for the maker and co-maker if there is a co-maker. We then give you first degree relatives only. This goes back to, I know that we all date or marry someone within the 3 to 5 year age range of ourselves. When you're looking at data, everybody has access to the data, but how you analyze it is completely different. And a lot of people are clicking to click and don't understand what they're looking at. When you see a first degree relative, a second degree relative, a third degree, a fourth degree, a fifth degree, all they're really doing is guessing. There's no way of knowing. So the farther degrees you go out, the broader the guess is. When I'm looking at any database to check how tight or loose their matching logic is, I go to relatives before anything. And the reason why is I'm an only child and an only grandchild. And in the past 8 years, I've lost every family member I've ever had except for my wife and our 2 kids. So if I see 150 relatives, I know they have very loose matching logic. If I see my mom is deceased, yep, there she is. There's her old address. My wife, my son, my daughter. Okay, that's a good matching logic. And then we're giving you the known associates, phones, emails, dates of birth, etc. And we're doing that for both customer and co-maker if there is one. I am going to take those new addresses and I'm going to apply the same thing I did at the beginning. I'm going to pull a quick property record, see if they match the original guy. If they're new, that's a new person to talk to find the where, the why, to lead me to the where. I'm going to do an address search to see who's associated with the address. Do they match the original addresses? I know that we have a long-term relationship here. Maybe a new relationship has popped up using that 3 to 5 year age range as a guide. I'm going to go to the street view of those new addresses and see what those addresses look like. Now, here's a quick down and dirty field skip report. You pull up to an address, there's a car in the driveway, it's not yours, you don't know who it goes to, you don't know if they're related to your subject at all. You quickly run the tag, you get that same info, the info on the vehicle, the lien holder, the registered owner, the most current credit header address, no relatives, no known associates, no nothing. Now you can see, does this match my subject or not? I do the quick analysis of the addresses every time. Don't think that a mobile home is a step down. It might be your subject is stepping up, because today's manufactured homes are insane. Granite countertops, granite floor, wood floors, you name it. A lot of people are using them for lake houses, etc. in today's world. They're not the double wide of the trailer park we saw when I was young. And I do the property record and the address again. Social media should be part of your Lite-Skip game. It can help you with the why. It can help you with the where. Now, there's a lot of social media companies out there. I'm going to focus just on the 600-pound gorilla, and that's Facebook. I'm not here to dispense legal advice. That's not my wheelhouse. It's not my lane. If you're using fake Facebook accounts to get someone to accept a friend request, I'm going to tell you to stop doing it, because you're violating the CCRA Act, and it's a felony to actually use any hardware or software against the manufacturer's terms and conditions. So when you created your Facebook account and you checked yes to the 3,237 pages of their user agreement, one of those is that you wouldn't use fake profiles. It could be a felony. There's something called a sock puppet. A lot of people on the dark net use them. It is a legal alternative ID that you can use online. It's like a burner phone. If you're going to use them correctly and legally and in compliance. You really don't need to do any of that. When I look at someone's Facebook page, you're looking at my current Facebook. I look down at the bottom. I don't care if I see their post or who they're friends with. Most people give me everything I need and more in the reels, the photos, and the events. Again, this is my personal Facebook, and look at how much info I give away to all the identity thieves out there. You've got my phone number. You've got my email address. I'm a male. The date of birth is wrong on purpose. You've got where I work. I live in Mobile, Alabama. I'm from Kingsport, Tennessee. My favorite movies, my favorite TV shows. That tells you a lot about my personality. I then can go to the pictures. Very few people ever protect their pictures from the outside world looking in. Like they don't protect the about me, because you want people from high school, etc., to be able to find you. Everybody's the same when it comes to that. You want it easy for old friends to find you, to reconnect. I'm a little different. My professional Facebook, I've almost maxed it out. My personal one, I've got 23 friends. I figure if I haven't reached out to you as long as social media has been around, there's probably a reason why, so don't send me a friend request. But look at two pictures. Here's one from Allied last year. This is my buddy Ron Brown, and I decided I would photobomb him in the background just to have some fun. And then there's the picture of my wife and I. All my pictures are open to pretty much public domain. I actually had to make my wife change her profile picture because I told her she was letting the whole free world know where at the time she worked, and she still works there, but where my daughter actually went to school as well, because she was wearing a Knollwood Knights polo shirt. Well, I know every school in Mobile, and I know Knollwood Knights is owned by Knollwood Church, and my daughter was a cheerleader there at the time. So I made her change the picture, because 2 and 2 adds up to 4. I also can look at check-ins. People check into different places. We can't seem to eat a meal without someone taking a picture of it and posting it and saying yum. I mostly check into airports and hotels, except for 2 years ago, I had a pretty vicious freak accident here at the house and ended up in the hospital where they induced a coma for 4 days. I hope not to check in there again. We have events we want to go to. We have reviews we have given. If we feel strong enough about someone, about a place to give a good review, it's a place we're going to again. I said there's another establishment I frequent. My mentor Harvey Altez taught me years ago to buy gold and silver. Once a month I go and I buy some silver at Mobile Bay Coin and Fine Jewelry. I do it every month around the 15th. They know me by first name. They can tell you, yeah, he'll be in about the 15th if you go in there and ask for me. Your skips are no different. We make this too difficult sometimes. The books I read, the groups I belong to, Again, the reviews I've given of different restaurants my wife and I go to, your skips are no different. You need to beware of monsters on the internet. There are actually 65 social networking sites overseas in Russia, in China, etc., that are available on the darknet. But if your computer isn't prepared to go on the darknet, you need to stay away from it like it is the bubonic plague, because within 30 seconds of you being online, your computer's locked up, your identity is stolen, and you're having to send Bitcoin to someone to unlock all your computer systems because you have ransomware. But here's an idea of what's available out there. And if you're dealing with someone that's fairly new to our country, do you think they're on our Facebook? Or are they on the social networking site of choice from their country that their family and friends are on? And I'm going to send everybody in attendance a certificate of attendance and also a PDF of the 65 social networking sites worldwide and what each one of them do. So that gives you an idea. But here's just an example of the two biggest and most popular. The first is Ren. It is the most popular social media platform in China. It is an exact replica of Facebook. And you figure China has about 1 billion people and half the country are on it because it's owned by the Chinese government over there. Next, we have VK, which is one of the largest social networking sites in Russia. And it has all of the same features of Facebook here in the States. You have social networking sites in Latin America, etc. They'll all be in the PDF that I send you. Some of them you don't need the darknet to access. Taringa is the Latin America Facebook, but it's also used as an instant messaging server, a transfer portal for cryptocurrency and other things as well in Latin America. Some quick ways to contact me, and I'm coming in for a landing. I try not to take up too much of your time and just give great content. If anybody has any questions, we'll have Q&A after. If you don't have anything to ask today, you can always email me. I have a Facebook group called Skip Gurus Tribe. I have a lot of ex-FBI profilers, CIA guys, etc. We're over 4,000 strong now. You can join it. All we do is talk about skip tracing. There's no memes, no political speech, nothing allowed. It's content driven only. Even though it's gotten a little salesy, LinkedIn is still the best business contact resource out there. But you can always just pick up the phone and call me. At this stage of life, there's nothing more that I enjoy than a good conversation. So I will be sending everybody the certificate of attendance once ARA sends me today's registration list and the PDF with the 65 social media sites across the world. Look for that over the next couple days. I'd have to do these individually one at a time. And when I have 300, 400, 500, 600 people in attendance for one of these classes, it may take a few days. So if with Monday being a holiday, if you don't have it by, say, Wednesday of next week, reach out to me. It might be in your junk or spam folder. Big Tony,
Yeah.
back to you before I have a final send off.
All right. Thanks, Alex. Great information as always. And we don't have it. I haven't seen any questions come across the comments or in the Q&A. So we will, going once, going twice. Then I guess we will. Oh, Elijah has a question. Elijah, you want to go ahead and type it in? Okay, so Elijah was asking, do you plan on doing an advanced skip class?
As a matter of fact, our skip class in September, because these are done bi-monthly, I will be doing how I skip trace an account. That's going to be a little bit longer of a class because the content is longer, but it's how I deep dive accounts. So the next class that we'll be doing for ARA will be exactly that, how I do a full skip trace.
Okay. Aaron actually, excuse me, has an interesting question. Why would we check Russian social media for people in rural New York?
Well, if they're fairly new to the country, don't you think they're still in contact with friends and family that might still be in Russia and not using our social media here? I have found people using these different social networking sites in people's country of origin.
All right.
A lot of people use both. They'll use our Facebook for the people they've met here. They're using friends and family in the old country they come from. And I will also give everybody a link, an opportunity to set up a free test account where you can test our new validation report that I showed you that you can instantly do a Lite-Skip trace with. And with that, I just want to say sincerely, after 41 years of doing this, that this industry still sees me relevant enough for 400 to 500 people at a shot to come to these classes is more humbling than you'll ever know. Y'all are the reason I get up every morning to be a little bit better than I was yesterday, and for the next class to be a little bit better than the previous one. So, from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much. And as always, be blessed, be safe, and happy hunting, everyone.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We will see you again. Actually, I'm not sure if we've got a class in June, but just be on the lookout. We'll be sending out notifications in the next.
Our next class would be in July, and we don't have a date yet. You and I have to do one.
That's right.
And that'll be on how I skip trace accounts. That'll be the deep dive class.
That'll be in July.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks, everybody. We will see you at the next one. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.